Greetings everyone and welcome to my online talk. Tonight I'm going to be discussing overcoming troubling times. I want to thank you for taking the time for joining me. Right now we are going through an unprecedented situation. Things are complicated at the moment, they're complex and uncertain, but that does not mean that we have to give in, nor does it mean that we have to give up. I want to start by telling you a bit about my story. Up until the age of 26, I was just a normal, average guy. Nothing unique about me, nothing special. But in 2016, I got shot during an attempted home invasion. We had 3 armed intruders attempt to enter the house. In the process, I got shot a single gunshot wound to the lower abdomen, and I was rushed off to hospital, airlifted to hospital, where I underwent emergency surgeries. I lost my kidney, I lost my spleen, and in the process I was also paralyzed from the waist down. When I woke up from a coma 5 weeks later, the doctors then knew that I could not feel my legs, because up to that point it had been uncertain, and the doctors were more concerned about getting me to live than they were to worrying about whether or not I'd be able to use my legs at the end of it. So after waking up, my family's fears were realized. I'm paralyzed from the waist down, L1, L2, and this left a huge impact in my life. Going from the hospital to the rehab facility, this is the place that would teach me to use a wheelchair. Everything that comes in with using a wheelchair, like getting dressed while lying down, using the actual wheelchair, being able to get up a small step, all this kind of stuff I had to learn from scratch. My whole life changed, but I managed to adapt to the changes that came. And right now, that's what we all need to do. Your life can change in an instant. Luckily, I have a bit of good news, that there's nothing unique about me that I could adapt in my situation. We all have this ability to adapt. And I've seen it time and time again with many people that I've seen in the hospital and the rehab going through the process, is we can adapt to our new lives. And that's what we need to do now. We're living in what's being called the new normal. It's the life as we knew it is changing. We need to change along with it. We have examples of restaurants that are now delivering meals instead of having sit-down dinners. We now have clothing designers making designer face masks. We're adapting, and we have to. I'm going to be discussing a couple of focus points. The first one I want to focus on is anxiety. And right now, we're all anxious, we're all uncertain, we don't know what is happening, and we're being placed in this difficult situation, and that causes us to be anxious about it. We worry about things far ahead than is necessary, and we need to, I've seen it with myself, I'm anxious, and we need to deal with that effectively. Some practical tips for dealing with anxiety. The first is take time to calm yourself and do something that you enjoy. Just take your mind off whatever is overwhelming you, even if it's for a short period of time. It just helps you reevaluate life and just forget about the bad stuff, even if it's just for half an hour. Another tip is stop worrying about the things that you cannot control. If you have no control over something, worrying about it is not going to make it any better. Focus on the things that you can change. Focus on the things that you can change. That is what is important at this point. For instance, if I had to be worried about the fact that when I woke up in hospital, I couldn't walk, and nothing I did would be able to make me walk again. I have no sudden switch that I can say, if I do this, I'll start walking tomorrow. If I had to worry about that, I would never get to the point where I'm independent in my wheelchair. I'm able to get up steps by myself to a degree. I'm able to maneuver around the world. I can pop on my back wheels, all that kind of stuff. If I focused on what I can't do, I would never have gained the skills with the things that I can do. The next focus point is frustration, and I still get frustrated. I would love to say that I'm this happy guy with no frustrations in the world, and I've taken to it like a duck in water, but I haven't. I still have frustrations. To give you an idea, I used to be that guy whose alarm went off at 5 o'clock in the morning, and by 5:30, I've been through the shower, gotten dressed, had breakfast, and I'm off to work. Now it takes me an hour and a half on a good day. That's frustrating. I used to be the kind of guy that when we went grocery shopping, I would carry 10 bags in at once. You know those men who I do it in one trip or it doesn't happen? I used to be that guy. Now I can't carry more than 2 bags attached to my wheelchair without one of the bags tearing or something getting damaged. It's gotten so bad that my wife doesn't allow me to carry the bread in because it's inevitably going to get squished somehow. Some miraculous way the bread will get squished if I carry it in. So I still have frustrations, but you have to learn to deal with it. And at the moment, we're all frustrated. We don't know what's going to happen, and that which can happen we can't do at the moment. The other thing is we're getting frustrated in our households. The people that we're with, our families, our spouses, our roommates, we're getting worked up, we're getting frustrated because we're always in each other's company, in each other's faces. We have to learn to deal with this. A couple of practical tips for dealing with frustration. The first is develop a routine. Get up at the same time in the morning every morning. Right now, all my days are blending into one. I don't know which day it is, whether it's a weekday, weekend. This kind of stuff is normal because we're unsure. Everything is just mulling over into one situation. So set yourself a routine and set yourself some daily goals. If you're reading a book, tell yourself today you're going to read 5 pages. If you're writing a book, tell yourself you're going to write 5 pages. Just set an achievable goal. This helps improve your mood and it helps you get stuff done. The next step is take some time for yourself by yourself. This will reduce the friction between you and your family or you and your spouse or whatever the case may be. Do something you enjoy. If you're a reader, read a book. If you're like me and like playing games, play a game for half an hour. Just do something that takes your mind off of it so that you can focus back on what is important when you come out of that session of whatever you enjoy. The next step is get out of your pajamas. I don't know why, but we do need this advice. The fact that we actually need this advice is hilarious in its own right, but I've seen it in myself as well. If you look good, you feel good. There's something that's been called enclothed cognition. I'd like to give thanks to Douglas Kruger and Janine Carley-James for that term. It's a fantastic term. Basically what it means is that if you dress well, you actually perform better in your job. Same thing with everything at home. Now, I'm not saying dress up in a 3-piece suit. You don't have to put on a blazer. What I'm saying is shave once in a while. That goes for the men and the ladies. If you decide you're going to have a Zoom meeting, for the ladies, put on your makeup just to help you feel better. Again, that is lady specific, but for the men, we don't judge. Just do these things to make yourself feel better, and you'll actually find yourself performing better as well. The next step is utilize the time wisely. My in-depth knowledge of the Tiger King is not going to help me further my career as much as I would love it to. Use the time doing productive things. The next point I want to focus on is the fear of contracting the virus. At this point, you're either in one of 3 boxes. Those that are scared of death, scared to death by the virus. Or the other extreme, those that don't really care and it's just another flu. Or those in the middle that realize people can die, you might not, but there's still a risk for people dying if they contract the virus. I personally am on the vulnerable list. Because I'm missing my spleen and my kidney, my body is compromised, my immune system is compromised. So if I get COVID-19, it might not end well for me. For some people, they'll be able to catch it, live through it, get over it without even realizing that they have it. For me, it could put me back in ICU at least, if not worse. And quite frankly, I've been through ICU once. I have no desire to go back. So a couple of tips when it comes to the fear of going out is we've all been taught the social distancing rules. Is follow the social distancing, keep distance where you can, wear your masks, wear gloves if needed. But if you're going to wear these things, wear them properly. I don't see the point of wearing a mask if it doesn't cover your nose. We've all seen someone like that. Just wear them properly. And be understanding, be considerate. Realize that, yes, maybe your immune system is great. You have no underlying issues that you know of. You have no underlying issues that you don't know of. And you'll be fine. But if you infect someone while you are carrying the virus, and that person is, like me, on the vulnerable list, people that can succumb to this illness, technically it should be your responsibility to make sure you don't hand it over to other people. Just be considerate. The next focus point I want to focus on is depression. And right now depression is a very real problem. It is a concern for many factors involved. There are financial implications. People are getting depressed because of the social distancing issue, the not being able to see people and being isolated. I know I had depression in my younger years, in my early 20s. I suffered from depression. I managed to get out of it, and I'm happy for that. But after getting shot, I thought to myself, I am so happy to be alive. I was filled with this happiness from inside. I would never have to worry about depression again. But it took me a week of lying in bed to realize I had no desire to get out of bed. I had no desire to do anything except, eat my sorrows away. And suddenly I realized that I'm depressed again. It made me come to terms with the fact that I need to accept that this is happening and deal with it. I managed to get through that section again. But it crept up on me, not even while I was still new in my life after near-death experience. I didn't think I could get depressed again because I'm just happy to be here. It can happen to anyone, and it's really serious. So a couple of tips for dealing with depression. And the first is, if you need to, consult with a doctor or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. There is no shame in asking for help. If you do not ask for help, it affects you, it affects those around you. Life can only get better from asking for help, even though it is difficult, and I know that it is. But it just makes your life better when you get the help you need. There is no shame in asking for help. The next piece of advice is exercise. Any amount of exercise. I'm not saying you have to start running marathons to get healthy. I'm saying whatever you can do without injuring yourself, without negative effects in your body, do that. It has been proven that exercise not only helps you deal with stress management, but also boosts your immune system. At this point, what do we need more than managing stress and having a strong immune system? So get some exercise in. It does help. Something that is often overlooked when it comes to depression is social interaction. Right now, we are isolated more than ever before, and this has a huge effect, a huge toll on people. It has a huge effect and has a huge toll on people. Excuse me. And I've seen this with myself. So the recommendation is make phone calls to your family, do Zoom meetings, have Zoom calls, have WhatsApp video calls with people. Seeing other people and interacting with them can help you with your depression immensely. We even had a friend's birthday over Zoom. We had 20 different people from around the world log into this Zoom meeting, and we celebrated our friend's birthday. We could all see each other. It was amazing. So just do that kind of stuff. It really does help. And on that topic, this is what you can use to check in on your family and your friends. Again, like I said, asking for help is extremely difficult, and we tend not to do it. So check in on your friends, check in on your family. Maybe they're not coping as well as you think they are. The next point I want to focus on is coping with change. We need to plan ahead. My wife is a preschool teacher. She's already starting to think about what happens when they go back to work, when the kids go back to school. How does she console a crying child without being able to give them a hug? How does she greet the children with social distancing going on? These might seem like simple factors, but she's planning ahead because she realizes this will be a problem and she has to deal with it to keep everyone safe. And we have to adapt our lives and our businesses accordingly to the new normal. So is there work that you can do from home? And something that I found is the harder you fight change, the worse it will end for you. I'm sorry, but that is the way it goes. Embrace it. It makes life easier. I've seen numerous cases of people with chronic illnesses or underlying issues that basically means that their bodies are deteriorating and they can no longer walk properly. They are refusing to use wheelchairs because having that mindset of having to accept that you now need to make use of a wheelchair or any other mobility device means that you're weak and you're not as good as what you were. What happens is that these people put off using something like a wheelchair for years, which does more damage to their bodies. It causes worse complications down the line that would have been avoided if they just said, you know what, every time I get up, I have this problem with my leg and it's not working. Let me use a wheelchair. Instead, they can no longer do anything with that leg because they decided to push it forward and put it off as much as they could. Embrace change. Change can be good and it can help you in certain aspects. The next fact I want to look at is job loss. Now, when I got shot, I was working as an occupational health and safety officer. We ended up losing the contract after I went back to work. We ended up losing the contract and my entire department was retrenched. And I found that I could not get re-employed as a safety officer because no one wanted a safety officer on a construction site that was in a wheelchair. This is unfortunately just the truth of it. Despite the fact that it was literally my job to write the risk assessments and know what risks there are on site, people were too afraid and I had to make a change. That's when I went into something I was already doing on the side. That's motivational speaking. I made that change because I saw that there was a huge need for it. People gain something from my story and I can help others by what I've gone through, teaching them the lessons I've learned, the experiences I've had. It can help other people. So I started doing this full time and I saw a need for it. At the moment, they're expecting our unemployment rate to go up to 50% in the next year or so. That is extremely high. It's half the country unemployed. We need to find ways to deal with this. Something that seems counterintuitive is now the time for you to become an entrepreneur. Do you need to start your business now when our economy is in tatters? It sounds counterintuitive, but there's logic behind this. So let's start off looking at how can you change what it is you do. I've given the example of a dress designer that is now making stylish designer masks. We have restaurants that are now no longer open to the public, but just doing deliveries. What in your business can you change to make money at the moment? What can you change to help improve yourselves? And if you're not able to adapt what it is you do, maybe now's the time to look at improving your skills or learning new skills. There are plenty of online courses available. There are free courses, there are paid courses. Just literally jump on Google, type in the subject matter you're interested in and course, and you're likely to find a course in that line. I personally like to use Udemy. It's just a nice platform to use. I can find a whole range of courses in a variety of subjects. So it's just nice to have all my courses in one place. But there are many other options as well. We need to work now for our futures. Learning these skills will just help us in the long run. Yes, relaxing is important as well, but don't only relax at home. Do something productive. Do something for your future. There's a quote from General Patton that goes, "A good plan executed today is better than a perfect plan executed next week." Do what you can, do it now. It's important that we work on our futures. If you're not able to change what you do, you're not able to learn skills, what do you know? What skills do you have that you can teach other people? Maybe you can record tutorial videos, DIY, how to make something at home, how to do this. What do you know that you can teach other people? Can you set up your own online course based on the subject matter that you already have? These are things to consider. And again, this sounds counterintuitive, but can you start a business doing what you were doing for the company that you got retrenched from, but doing it for yourself? It sounds counterintuitive to start a business now when our economy is at its worst. But if no one is employing people and people are being laid off, we have a whole range of people that are highly skilled that can run businesses. It is possible. These are things to consider in your own lives. The next subject I want to focus on is finances. And right now, our financial security is completely uncertain. I have seen that in my own industry. The speaking industry has been turned on its head. We're all busy making changes into online platforms. We're changing the way we do things, pivoting, as they say, into online talks. That's why I started doing these talks, is we need to change the way we do things. A couple of tips when it comes to your finances. The obvious thing is find ways of cutting costs. We all have to do this. This is just a general basic skill we have to learn. Find out from your banks if you can get extensions or payment holidays. These are things to look at. There are options for a lot of people. Not everyone qualifies, but have a look. Another thing that came up is something from Douglas Kruger. It's called ghost money. Essentially what this is small amounts that get pulled off your account every month that are so small you don't even notice. A 50 Rand here or 100 Rand there. Sometimes we miss these things. It could be subscriptions that you signed up for that you have forgotten you signed up for and no longer use. It could be something you've never signed up for and people are busy stealing money from you without you realizing. Have a look at these things. Initially when I heard this term, I thought, I might have a subscription somewhere, that I forgot to cancel over the year or whatever. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a friend, he went through his bank statements and he came across a small amount that was going off for quite some time already for something he never signed up for. So he had people stealing his money, but because it was such a small amount that he hadn't come across it before until he looked in depth at his finances. So these things happen. So have a look, go through your bank statements and see if there are any subtractions that you are not familiar with. And remember that at the moment, if you are not worried about where your next meal comes from, you can be considered lucky. Things are complicated all over. And sometimes we just need to appreciate what we have, especially in times where things are difficult for everyone. The next focus point is your mindset. And I was saying that your mindset is key. And I have what I call a mindset of adaptation. I made the choice to adapt to my new life. And if I hadn't, I most certainly would not have come this far. I remember the first weekend I came home for a weekend visit from the rehab facility. I decided I was going to make myself a cup of coffee. I get to the kettle, and suddenly I realize I can't reach the mugs that are on the top shelf. I broke down crying. It was horrible for me to realize I couldn't do something. The next morning I awoke with a sense of determination. I got to the kettle and I said, I'm going to find a way. I found a wooden spoon, stuck it through the ear of the mug and pulled the mug off the shelf. I managed to make an adaptation. It was something simple, but I have never had a better tasting cup of coffee than the one that I had to work hard for. The funny thing is, the next weekend I returned home, my parents had moved the mugs to a lower shelf. Thus, it would be easy for me to reach the mugs and I don't have to use the wooden spoon. On one hand, this is great. Some forward thinking helps. On the other hand, the cool trick I learned the week before has now become redundant. But that gave me this thought that if you plan ahead, then you don't have to struggle to adapt in that moment. I currently keep 2 sets of wheelchair ramps in the boot of my car, so that if I get to a place that's got a couple of steps, then I've already planned for it. I know what to do in that situation. I don't have to get someone in that moment to help me up the stairs. Simple things like that. I turned I can't do that into I can, I just have to do it differently. And I am now living a fulfilled, happy life. I'm achieving goals that I never would have imagined setting for myself to begin with. All because I had the mindset that I have a problem, I need to overcome it, how do I do it? That mindset is key. To conclude, it is important that we do not give up. Winston Churchill has a quote that says, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Now, to me that means that if I stop, I'm going to be stuck in hell. Everything I would have gone through would be for nothing if I just gave up right there. If I gave up, I would still be bedbound and unhappy, because that is what is expected when you tell someone you're paralyzed. But I decided to keep going. Now, I am nowhere near being able to walk again, but I'm still a hell of a lot closer to being able to walk than I was 4 years ago. If I had thought I will never be able to walk, I would never have improved. I would never have progressed. I would have never worked hard on what I was doing. I already have a couple of muscles that have returned in my leg. This is only because I have a goal and I kept reaching to go for that goal. All you can do, the only thing that can be expected from us, is do your best. People cannot expect any more, but it is wrong of us to deliver anything less. Remember that you are not alone, and stay strong. If you have any questions, you can direct them to my Facebook page, or follow me on Facebook, subscribe to my channel on YouTube for all my future content coming out. I want to thank you for taking the time out to watch me tonight. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you've gained something from it. Have a great evening further. Bye.